Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March Council meeting. Hopefully the April one, we may be back around the table in the office, but we better not hold our breaths. But anyway, certainly a very warm welcome to this meeting. And we'll start the meeting off with apologies. And we have one from Councillor Hazel Barnes. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive that apologies? Moved Councillor Gordon and seconded Councillor Coles. All those in favour, please say aye. Wave your hand.
Aye.
Carried. I saw everyone's hand go up, so I didn't go for anyone against. Disclosures of members' interests. Item 2, have we got any this morning? No disclosures. Thank you for that. So item 3, do we have any late items? No late items. Confirmation, item 4, confirmation of the order of the meeting. I haven't received anything to alter that, but does anyone need to leave or want to alter the order of the business? Gary, everything okay?
Yes, Your Worship. No suggestions from staff to change the order.
Okay, can I have a mover and seconder then for the order of the business? Councillor Stolwick and Councillor Mike Pettit. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. Item 5, councillors' updates on attendances. There might not be many attendances, but certainly any council business that's been attended to over the month. Do we have anything, Claire?
Oh yeah, thanks, Jim. I went along to the Tuamiri Sports Club's Fun Day a couple of weekends ago. They're sort of trying to start the season off and getting a lot of new people interested, particularly in playing soccer and these athletics and stuff there too. And they took the opportunity to say that they're finding it really challenging to maintain the grounds. Like it's been really dry in the summertime, and then we get this huge deluge, all at once, and then it does more damage really to the playing surface. And I think that they are hoping to work with the Parks and Reserve staff to see what can be done to make sure the playing surface is in good as a condition as it can, so they can maximise the play hours. Like I know that was work done over, is it John Kirkhoff Park in Cambridge this year? So there's probably going to be a request or something. And they're also keen to upgrade their club rooms as well, which I understand are council owned. And then we had the first annual plan webinars yesterday, and I just want to congratulate staff on how well that's going, because there's been a lot of preparation, I guess, in supporting the people that are facilitating that. Like I did the Ohopo one, and then I attended the Cambridge one too, and seemed that people were managing to participate all right, although some of us councillors did have a bit of difficulty actually getting in, even though we were registered, but that might have been fixed now. And lastly, I'm participating in a climathon that's part of the Go Eco Climate Hub this week, which is in Hamilton, and they're trying to generate a lot of interest and I guess ideas about what ordinary people can do, especially young people, can do about climate change. So I was quite impressed actually with the organisation of it, and it's pretty great. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. I've got Roger, Phil, Lou, Susan and Mike with their hands up. So I'll start with you, Roger.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, a couple of, as with everybody, there's a lot more of the virtual meetings. I did, however, and this was really interesting, I attended a Lake Te Kutu group that were expressing concern over the health of the lake, which I was quite surprised at, because I was really under the impression that during the LTP, we'd really had a good discussion on that, and we'd come up and accepted the Lake Te Kutu development plan. So that was quite a surprise, but however, it did give me the opportunity subsequently to share with them the stormwater plan for that area over the next 3 stages, and obviously share with them the fact that the rain gardens were going to be installed in a week after. So hopefully that gave them some information that they weren't aware of. I did attend the Future of Local Government panel discussion, which I think a lot of other councillors also did, and attended the workshop on the Treaty of Waitangi, again, as did many other councillors. Another good thing, which is just up the road for me, I attended the Karakia for the Rest Haven development, and really, really impressed with what is going there, and so good to see that that is finally getting the green light and it's going ahead. So that was very, very good to see that going further. The Urban Mobility Governance and Reference Group, attended those virtually. Really pleased with the level of public involvement in the reference group. And I think we've got a good selection of local residents that are actually in that reference group and are willing to share with us their ideas as we go forward. Attended most of the LGNZ Zone 2 meeting the other day. And similarly, the march on beginning of this week, cuppa with your council for Cambridge. And I was really, I suppose, disappointed and pleased. I was disappointed that we didn't get more connection with the community. I think I counted 4 residents that joined, but then those 4 residents, I mean, there were a couple of really good questions that came out, and that was a great opportunity to share with them what our thoughts were on those issues that they raised. And I think the idea that came out subsequently was that those issues across all of the Share a Cuppa sessions should be somehow combined into a Q&A kind of video, which would be good. So that's me.
Thanks, Roger. Any comments? Okay, Phil?
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, attended the normal sort of monthly meetings in person or virtually, and then also the first cuppa with council yesterday. So looking forward to getting into more of those in the next week or 2. So just working out how it was all going to pan out yesterday. So hopefully we can have a little bit more involvement in those presentations. But along with Liz, and Liz just opened the new Super Value supermarket in Cambridge North. This is part of the Kevin Honus project, and all I really wanted to say about that is, you know, we're really lucky to have such an amazing developer living in our town. He lives in our town, lives right opposite, in fact, lives and breathes our town. So, you know, the building is designed in keeping of Cambridge, right, but also modern as well at the same time. So, you know, all his buildings, all his designs and everything like that are in keeping with Cambridge and for the benefit of the community. And he's with Joe's Garage, which is just next door, another project. He's got bike racks and all sorts of things there, stainless steel water fountains and things like that too. But
point of order, Mayor Jim, I'm just mindful of trying to keep these sessions to on point. You know, these are really designed for members to give an opportunity to go across or share with everybody the meetings and things that they've gone to on account of being a representative of council. And I'm not entirely sure that this sort of conversation by Council is really on point.
I was invited here as a member of the
thanks, Susan. Hang on, Philip. Yeah, thanks, Susan. And it is a point to try and keep on point, Phil. So it is an opportunity where you're representing council on issues, just to keep everybody informed.
Okay, well, I was representing council, but I've finished anyway now. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Lou.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honour. I actually represented the Waipa District Council with Jim's say-so at Civil Defence. We had the Civil Defence Act being revamped at the moment. So we met with Minister Kerry Allen and we had a very positive discussion. I will say that from what we've seen, they are accepting the fact that the territorial authorities do have the ability to control the information of our civil defence. We raised as Waipa the fact that we operate with a tri-operation with the three of Waitomo and Otahonga and ourselves, and that allowed us to have 2 controllers and have permanent staff well trained. So that was a very positive discussion and went very well. I also attended the Zone 2 meeting and was very concerned to hear our chair of LNG, Stuart Crosby, state that we're going to have to accept that some of the legislation is just going to be pushed through, particularly Three Waters, in its current form. Thought that was quite an intriguing thing. I also attended the Urban Mobility Reference Group and have been actioning that at the moment because the Tiamutu side has possibly a lot less people sitting in it. And I just wanted to correct one thing you said, Claire, if you don't mind. TA Sports actually owns the building, the club rooms, that's on council land. So I actually helped build that. So I do know that. So thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Susan.
Thanks, Jim. Just quickly attended along with actually a handful, I'm surprised it hasn't been mentioned yet, the Urban Miners demonstration and dinner function they held to sort of introduce their services, if you like, to those who hadn't had the opportunity to see the great work they're doing out there, and also to sort of celebrate their win in the Keep New Zealand Beautiful Awards. It was a really deserved win, great bunch, doing great work, and it was good to see that there were so many councillors attending that function to support them.
Thanks, Susan. And certainly concur with those comments in terms of recycling and everything that we now need to focus a lot more on. Mike.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and through the Mayor. Yeah, I was also top of my list was the Urban Miners Rotary Group, and it was a really interesting evening, and just great that we're looking at sort of doubling their capacity and also taking on extra days there from Thursday to hopefully Tuesday as well. So great work they're doing. The urban mobility stuff, yeah, it's really interesting start there, and Liz will probably talk more about that. So the reference group, I think we've got a good mix in there. And also the meeting with the fire brigade, which I think Liz organising some staff there. That was an interesting meeting too, and having them on board is really important. And the Cambridge Councillors meeting with the annual planners did one yesterday. Yeah, and I guess I concur with the comments of Roger. I mean, it's a shame there's not more people involved, but I guess that's the nature of the beast of local politics, and some are interested and most aren't. And but also just like to congratulate the staff on that, because the slides I think that have been put together are really easy to understand. No matter what your age, you better understand those slides, and having that calculator in there also is a great asset. And just yeah, well done, Liz, for running that meeting. It was nice and succinct and to point. So no, it was good. Thank you. Thanks,
Mike. Andrew.
Thanks, Jim. I attended the Te Awamutu Pirongia Cycleway meeting during the month, and it is, I don't want to jinx it, but it is looking pretty promising that we'll actually get some works done this coming summer. We've missed the season now, obviously, but they tell us for the first stage that basically the agreements, if not signed, are ready for signing, and yeah, so we're all, I know, looking forward to seeing.
You finished, Andrew?
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I just thought the machine had frozen. Liz.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, we're not going to raise too much other things here, but yeah, just to celebrate, I guess, this morning the opening of the Super Value on Swain Road in Cambridge. It's an enormous feat to be able to develop, you know, I guess neighbourhood supermarkets or mini marts, and a huge, I guess, undertaking to do that. And you don't just underestimate just how much work there is involved in licensing and all that kind of thing. So yeah, huge welcome to the new owners there, and I really look forward to, yeah, I guess, yeah, supporting them as we should. And your plans that people have mentioned, yes, Ohalpo and Cambridge first came off the rank. Thanks, Claire. You broke the, you know, you're the first one to facilitate. I know that wasn't easy, but yeah, would be great to see more people. But of course, hopefully, I think we're going to gather some momentum. I see it last night on Antenno. I think Susan, you mentioned that we really ought to get that information out, and Antenno is a really good device to do that. I know, because all of a sudden I started getting all of this information about the annual plan options. So yeah, that came through last month, which was really good. So hopefully we'll see more people on there. Also, we had our first urban mobility reference group. So just as a reminder, this is a community group that we've all kind of agreed to set up so that we can really engage with our communities on what they like or what they don't like, but how we can prioritise any future walking, cycling routes going forward. And this is, I think, it's going to be a fantastic, group for us to test theories on and to really make sure that we've got the community on board with us this time. I think we've learnt a lot from previous projects and trials that we've had. So this will be, just I guess a really good group to challenge our thinking. And I'm certain they will challenge. There's no question about that. There's no one sort of holding back right now, which is really, really good. And as Mike mentioned, we did engage directly with the fire brigade as well. We had a good turnout, in fact. Dawn and Brian attended as well as Mike, and it was just brilliant to see, how invested they are in making sure that, we can proceed with cycle routes, but also that we can get our emergency services easily around town. So they're going to be really engaged with us going forward. Just a couple of other little things. So attended with others as well with a meeting last week with Tainui. It was all councils, Waikato, Hamilton City and ourselves. So yeah, just to kind of keep up to date with what's happening across our area, which I think is really good. And of course, recently attended also a Hamilton City and Waipa governance meeting too. So yeah, just to always make sure that we're across our other neighbouring councils and we all understand what each other are doing, and that we're kind of hopefully all on the same page too. So there's always lots of things we can do to be working together. So yeah, that's it from me. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Liz. Graham.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. About a month ago when this happened, so I just about forgot about it, but we had a request from the New Zealand Embassy in Tokyo asking us to do a video and go through the process of how the sister city connection came from Bihoro in Cambridge and how it was going and what we were achieving. So I got visited by a small film crew at home. We wanted a quiet place in my garden, and we went through the situation of the contacts that came nearly 25 years ago, and asked the council if they could be a sister city. And joining me was Ayako Umehashi, and she did it in Japanese, and of course I did it in classical English. We've sent it up to Japan, and I've got an email from Taka and Kumi saying that they had viewed it and sent it on to the mayor. So that was really good, but it was all about the 70th anniversary of the linking up with embassies for Japan and New Zealand. Unfortunately, it didn't make the Hollywood presentations yesterday, so sorry about that.
Thanks, Graham. They don't know what they missed.
If you go onto the Bihoro website, they're on there if you want to have a look. Several people have already rung me and said it was okay, so that was quite good.
Thanks, Graham. Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Jim. Just one more thing, and Councillor Webber's just reminded me. Jude Dobson, the Lekanwa Museum project over in Lekanwa. that's nearing its start line, and Jude Dobson is involved in redeveloping the website for that project. And so she came down with Mel, her sort of one-man film crew, and we did a similar work to Graham, really a bit of video work with another person from in town and some children, just to try and revamp that website. They've sort of got their shop in order, I guess, and all as well in that particular group up, which is really based in Auckland. So it seems to be going very well. Also talked to Sir Don McKinnon a couple of weekends ago around the project, and he's very happy with the progress. And they've also, actually, no, I won't say that, but it's going to be pretty amazing who they've got on board in terms of the internal part of the displays and things. I think people will be pretty impressed if it's not public. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Roger.
Yeah, sorry, Your Worship. Just a very quick one. As you know, my house looks over the Te Awa River Ride, and I just want to say how much greater the usage has been. I mean, it's been obvious, the groups that are riding along that river ride now, it's going to be incredible when it opens up for the full length. But just thought I'd mention that. That's really a great investment.
Thanks, Roger. That was certainly one of the issues I was going to mention in terms of a great facility that's sort of unfortunately opened almost under the radar, but a huge level of support already and really positive comments. But looking around, no one else has their hand up. But Liz, thank you for the attending in my stead this morning. I thought I wouldn't be able to make it back from the opening in time for the council meeting. So thanks for attending that. I certainly have attended a lot of the events that have already been mentioned, but I suppose one of the issues that's really concerning me at the moment, and Lou touched on it regarding the meeting with Local Government New Zealand, and it's almost, I was going to say, it's not too strong a word, almost the contempt that central government has for local government in terms of the reforms, and they're so numerous, and I understand why, that the majority that central government has at the moment, this is the time for them to make any changes, I suppose, that they wish to make from a legislative point of view. But all of the legislation and the changes that are coming through and the reforms is actually reducing councils' capability and capacity, I suppose, in the community. That's certainly my reading on it. And the opportunity is there, not only for central government, if you like, to bring these reforms in and reduce council's capacity. It's also in their power to actually start handing over, if you like, or engaging with local government on things that we can do better for our communities than they can centrally. And the whole push continues to be on regionalisation and centralisation. So I think that the erosion of our impact in the community is going ahead at pace. So it's really quite concerning to me, and I believe that we really need to have more impact and comment through our Local Government New Zealand to actually start, I suppose, more vociferously letting central government know that local government isn't just going to go along with the changes that are being promoted without making comment as much as we can. And even if we look recently at the changes to the urban densification or changes that went through without really any comment or seeking input from local government whatsoever. And even the review panel that looked at that densification of urban development acknowledged that there had been no consultation with local government whatsoever, very poor quantitative analysis on the impact that it would have, but the government just went ahead anyway. So when we've got a majority that we have, we end up having to rely on groups like Communities for Local Democracy in the waters field to actually get our message across. So yeah, I think it was mentioned earlier in the morning that there's some sort of negativity out there, and I've always been really positive about the importance of local government, but I can really see that impact on our local communities being eroded. So yeah, I don't really want to put a negative spin on our meeting today, but I'm really concerned that local government's going to look quite different in a very short period of time, and with no input from councils around the country who represent their communities. So it's a real concern to me. But anyway, we can only keep advocating on our community's behalf and deal with the situations as they come. But Lou, your comment was that we're just going to have to put up with it, was Stuart Crosby's comment. He's probably right, but we don't have to like it, I suppose. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. I'm sorry about that, but I'm not feeling really positive about the outcomes of some of these reforms. So if there's nothing further, if we're now on to item 6, confirmation of the minutes of the 22nd of February, the unconfirmed open minutes. And we'll go through those first, and then we've got the minutes of the 15th of March. So can I have a mover and seconder to receive the minutes of the 22nd of February? Moved Andrew Brown and seconded Councillor St Pierre. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. So if we go through, there's page 1 of 8 here. There's the first pages, there's nothing there. Page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So there's no alterations or corrections or discussion on those minutes. So Roger, you're moving the true and correct record.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And a seconder, Mike Pettit, Councillor Mike seconds. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. And the meeting of the 15th of March. And again, can I have a mover and seconder to receive those minutes? Sorry, I looked away. I think Claire St Pierre and Lou Brown moved and seconded. And there's only 2 pages there. There's no, I wouldn't imagine there's any discussion or corrections. So can I have a mover and seconder that they're true and correct? Councillor Andrew Brown, Councillor St Pierre. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. Item 7, council signed under council seal. Gary, did you have any comments? It's only warrants.
No further comment, Your Worship, just warrants for our trade waste officers who need access to properties, reading meters and those sorts of things.
So can I have a mover and seconder to receive that report? And moved Councillor Graham Webber, seconded Councillor Lou Brown. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. Item 8, Audit and Risk Committee. Mover and seconder to receive those minutes, Councillor St Pierre and Councillor Wiltons, Andre Wiltons. Okay, so I'll go through these minutes as well, just in the normal format. Any comments on page 1, 2?
Just through the chair, Jim, we actually don't need to receive those minutes.
Oh, we don't?
No, it's just part of the report that's been presented by Jenny. So we just,
okay.
yeah, so that's, that will be taken as part of the report.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
so that's okay.
Thanks, Jenny,
no,
for
no
pulling
problem.
that up. Okay, hand it over to you, Gary.
Thank you, Worship. So Jenny is here to work through her report, talk about the highlights of the Audit and Risk Committee's minutes, and there are some recommendations there too. So over to you, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. I'll take the report as read. Again, COVID has dominated this quarter, and there was a lot of discussion at the meeting. You'll note that some of the mitigants are off track. This has largely been due to the redeployment of resources, particularly HR, onto our COVID response, but they don't impact materially on our overall risk. The strategy of having bubbles has been very effective, and we have not had to reduce services so far during the Omicron peak. The top risk trends, we have 3 top risks trending up. They're still, the ratings remain the same, and it is something we'll keep an eye on. The risk management policy and guides are the new style that we've adopted. Unfortunately, the policy dropped off the appendix, so we'll send that out in the Friday mail out. There's quite a lot of discussion around our internal audit plan, and we will have the Holidays Act audit in addition to the payroll audit this year, and that's because we're preparing for our new HRP payroll system. The follow-up audit to procure, to pay and contract management was an excellent result, with us getting effective from developing, thanks to lots of good work. And the carbon monitoring and reduction program report was received, and there's a recommendation for a net carbon reduction policy to be developed and carbon measurement framework for capital projects, and those will be developed. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Jenny. Are there any questions? Just from a point of clarification, Jenny, in terms of and it's in the recommendation as part B that council develop, the council note the committee's recommendation that council develop a carbon reduction policy. Should we just be noting it, or should we be resolving that actually happens?
I think they wanted endorsement from council.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, Jim, Graham.
Yes, Graham.
Jenny, just on matters identified during the audit, a couple of questions, please. As a result, the auditors are saying that $7.3 million of assets were identified that were previously unrecorded, and there was also $24.8 million in roading assets that were identified to have been previously duplicated. Can I ask what effect that will have in terms of depreciation on our annual accounts?
Is Ken online? Because that's a Ken question rather than a question for me.
That's fine. You can come back to me if you like, Jen.
No, well, Ken's sitting there.
I am here.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Ken.
I am here, and through your worship, yes. Look, I'll certainly answer the question, Councillor Weber's question. So yeah, so look, there will be depreciation impact, but yeah, I can't tell you exactly what that impact is. It will certainly come out in the mix, but just noting, yeah, we actually had some variances both ways. So we had some, yeah, obviously we had some assets on our books books that that actually didn't exist. So therefore they've been taken off our books and we've stopped depreciating them. At the same time, we did discover some assets that weren't on our books and needed to be there. So look, there is a balancing out of those numbers, and and look, in the scheme of things, it's certainly not a massive impact on depreciation.
Thank you. Ken, can I just now have a third question, please? They discovered that the Cambridge Town Pool had been individually revalued during the year, and I'm interested about how that happened. As a result, management recognised a revaluation loss of 3.589 million, and this was reviewed and identified that 615,000 of costs should instead have been expensed.
So look, through your worship, and just addressing that question, Councillor Weber, actually, I think you said the Cambridge Town Hall, but I believe you're talking about the pool.
The pool, sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. So look, you're asking how that came about. So during the year in question, of course, the Cambridge pool construction was completed, and we brought that to account in our books. Now we thought, we actually thought as officers, what we should do is actually value that. The auditors came back and said, actually, you shouldn't be valuing just one part of your land and buildings portfolio in isolation of the others. So we actually had to revert to the cost price. But in doing that, yes, there was a requirement for us to have a good look at the construction cost of that Cambridge pool, and there were some areas where on closer inspection, we determined it was more appropriate to expense some of the cost of the construction of the Cambridge pool rather than to capitalise it all in total. So that's what that matter was. After we concluded those discussions and did the work, I am happy we landed in the right place in terms of the capitalisation of the Cambridge pool, as were the auditors.
Thanks very much, Ken. Great.
Thanks, Ken. Mike.
Thank you, through the worship. There's a couple of pages on under 1.1, page 95 of our agenda, Ken. Just under the two first recommendations there that are in orange under urgent, just time frame and just how we just looking at addressing those.
So through your worship, sorry, Mike, I didn't quite catch the page number there.
Sorry, it was page 95 under new recommendations 1.1, a couple of pages on from where, page 95 of the agenda.
Right.
Page 5. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. No, I see it now. And you're asking about the two urgent ones, the two in orange.
Yeah. It's just time frames, and I guess is how we deal with that.
Yes. Okay. So So I guess looking at audit's definition of what urgent is about, that is slightly higher up the page. So it's talking about a significant deficiency in audit's view that exposes us to significant risk. And should be addressed without delay. So just looking at the items, so the person who reviews all journals posted for instances of self-approval does not have super user access, and the person who independently reviews master file changes is unable to make any changes, does not have super user access. So look, without going too much into the detail, both those items I know are being looked at currently by the finance team. We do report back on a quarterly basis to the Audit and Risk Committee in terms of progress against these items. So look, I would imagine that over the next month or two, and certainly in advance of the next Audit and Risk Committee in June, we would have had a good look at these and hopefully actioned them or determined with audit that they are not appropriate to action. So we do monitor these things on a quarterly basis. We will certainly take note of audit's urgency, and in fact, I believe that we're actually working through those at the moment.
Right. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. Were there any other questions? Okay.
Excuse me, so Your Worship, sorry, just going back to your question at the start about recommendation B, in terms of you questioning whether the council should be noting the committee's recommendation or whether it should be perhaps a bit stronger. Look, I would actually encourage you to perhaps consider putting the motion and perhaps switching out that word note and replacing it with endorse. Yeah, I think it would be more appropriate that the council endorses the committee's recommendation rather than just noting it.
Thanks, Ken. That was the point I was making. That was really just leaving it still up in the air if we didn't strengthen it. So look, I agree. So I'm just see Claire's got a hand up. Claire.
Well, yes, I just thought that there'd actually be a separate agenda item for that, and that the whole council would have the opportunity to go over in more detail. Like the members of the Audit and Risk Committee, had the benefit, of hearing that staff member who I can't remember his name now, but, going over it and how they could foresee that those reductions could be achieved. I just thought it deserved, a separate report, to the council.
Yeah, and I agree, Claire, and I'm not suggesting that doesn't happen. All by saying it endorses, enables the staff to actually come up with that policy for discussion. It's not approving a policy or anything. It's actually just making sure it gets done. Yep.
So through Your Worship and in relation to Councillor Sophia's question, look, this is endorsing the development of a policy. That policy would need to come through either council or probably more likely one of the committees, I should imagine, one of the committees of the full council. So I guess watch the space. Staff will need to do some further development work and then engage with you as elected members before that policy is developed or as part of that policy's development.
Yep. Okay. If there's no other questions, can I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations A and B? Just noting, taking out the word note and put endorse in recommendation B. So council endorse the committee's recommendation. If everyone's happy with that, Councillor Stolwick and Andrew Brown moved in second. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. The item 9 on the agenda is the iwi Consultative Committee resignations and appointments paper.
Thank you, Worship. So Gary Knighton is here. We have 3 resignations and 3 appointments for you to consider. So perhaps if I could pass to you, Gary.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Your Worship, just pretty much as laid out in the paper, 3 resignations there have been advised by Maniapoto Murray Trust Board that Barney Manaia is no longer representing them. Gabriel Morgan Logan will represent them. And Y and Angiuia are stepping down and being replaced by Tom Lord and Dom Viles as well.
Okay, thanks, Gary. I don't think there's too much need for discussion. These are appointments. So
that way, you Chana.
Councillor Lou Brown moved and seconded. Councillor Gower. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Before I put it as Gary, you would just quickly put your hand up.
Sorry, Your Worship, it strikes me that this is all pretty clinical, and I know we've had some wonderful service from the likes of Wire, and I wonder if we could just acknowledge that service in the recommendation, and we'll write a letter of thanks to those people who are stepping down.
Thanks, Gary. That's very valid comment. So we can include a recommendation in the recommendations, Gary, as a final one.
I think if we just add a D, Your Worship, acknowledging the service of these people and expressing our thanks, and then I'll be able to convey that to them.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I'm sure the mover and seconder are happy with that in the resolution. Thank you. So I did put it, all those in favour, and it was carried. Thank you for that, Gary. Item 10, submission on drinking water compliance rules.
Sorry, kia ora koutou.
Sorry, Rennie, you're in my bottom right-hand corner. I can see you waving. Gary, did you want me to go straight to Rennie?
Yes, Renee's across this. There's a raft of different standards and legislation coming through at the moment, and Renee's been good enough to turn her mind to this issue together with CoLab. So quite technical in nature, but if I could pass to Renee just to summarise some of the high points and then seek some comment from you folk.
Thanks, Gary. Renee.
Kia ora koutou, thank you, and through the worship. Yeah, so as Gary mentioned, this is a submission that we're submitting through to Taumata Arawa, which is the new Water Regulator, as part of their proposals to replace the current drinking water standards. So I will take the report and the submission as read, but I can highlight some of the key points that make up our submission. So there's 7 documents that have been released for consultation, and the rules that these documents cover are proposed to come in from the 1st of July this year. As mentioned, they're going to replace the current drinking water standards. They've made some changes to a lot of the technical and the monitoring sides of things, and they've introduced some new proposals for smaller water supplies. So we're classified as a larger supplier. So a lot of the smaller, which is like rural supplies and that sort of thing, there's some rules that come into play there. So council support the direction to update the standards and the associated compliance rules with that, but not in their entirety. And so some of the things that we have submitted on, or requesting to submit on, is that we request further clarification on some of the measures and potential interpretations. There's some things are open to interpretation there, so we just want some more clarity. There's also potential for collaboration, especially around some testing and combined catchments. For example, the Waikato River catchment, which is really large, and we've got so many neighbours that are close by. There'd be really good alignments that could be made there, we think. There's also some potential increases in costs on water suppliers like us based on the new monitoring requirements. So we've highlighted that as a concern. And also impacts the rules that may have on the skills shortage within the sector itself. So there's a lot of new requirements coming in, but there's currently a shortage there. So how will that be addressed? And also we've highlighted the budget implications for small suppliers and how they could be supported and what that may bring to a council or a supplier like us. And also potential implications for councils and communities should small suppliers not be able to comply with the new rules. So those were the key points that have been raised. So yeah, I'm happy to open the floor to questions or make any any of your suggestions.
Thank you very much. Claire.
Thanks, Renee. And I'm very happy with the things that you've raised in the submission. The question I have is a more general one, because I think there should be something that sort of gives priority to pristine water sources for drinking water, because it seemed to me that the regulations they're all concerned with the level of contamination or the level of substances in the water and what minimum or maximum acceptable values are. But really, if you can source water from a pristine source where you're not even going to have those there, surely that should, I suppose, open the way for preference to be given to those sources by councils and other suppliers of drinking water. Like at the moment, there doesn't seem to be anything like that to create that kind of decision tree.
Is that, are you talking in regards to priority given where we could take that water, or?
If we had a choice, like we did have we went through a process a few years ago where we thought about where we could get new water sources for Timutu. And neither of them were pristine actually, but if there was, I would have thought that should allow, preference to be given that, whereas at the moment the way the regulations seem to be, like I didn't go through the word for word, but it seemed to me like that really, as long as they don't breach any of those sort of contamination thresholds, it would be okay. But really, I think there should be a step before that if you had the option, it probably would be preferable to have a pristine source.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a given as part of it. I think these standards definitely come in from the treatment perspectives. And so it's just maintaining that minimum standard. So if you've got a pristine water source, then it's likely that your water will meet a lot of those standards immediately anyway. So like for the examples for our alternate water source search a few years ago, a lot of it came down to cost as well. You know, what would the cost be to try and treat that water to get to that minimum standard that's in those rules? So I think, yeah, there's sort of that double weigh up of do we want to fund that sort of stuff, or is the water, what quality is the water in the first place? So these rules specifically are related to that minimum standard of what is required in order for councils or water suppliers to treat to make it safe. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think there's definitely that two-prong approach there.
Yeah, and then there was another item about public events where if the number attending got over a certain threshold, there'd be a higher standard to meet. And I think you raised the point, well, we need to understand what that threshold is, because there might be an instance where an organizer of an event might decide, I don't want to go over that threshold, or rather than actually supplying water in a usual way, I'll provide bottled water. And that in itself could create a lot of knock-on effects, with all of the plastic bottles that are then needed to be disposed of or recycled or something. Surely it would be better to set up a system where you're not going to create those externalities, which really are going to be harder on the planet. I guess that it would be, it should be easier to supply water and not create these sort of anomalies that might, incentivize the wrong behaviour.
Yep. I'll take that. Thanks, Claire.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Claire. Lou and then Susan.
Firstly, Renee, I'd like to particularly thank you for a very, very well-written article. I went through this and thought that it was a very well-prepared article and brought up a lot of very significant points. Some of the things, typically with this government, we've got a lot of rules being implemented, but with very, very few quantitative standards. And that really concerns me. And I just look at, for example, the aesthetic properties that we're dealing with here. And it just says a general requirement, taste and odour should be acceptable to most consumers. Now, this leaves us wide open to all sorts of legislation, people complaining, what is a standard? There's no standard there, whatever. And I just feel that was very well picked up, and I thought really honest. There's another issue that I also felt it could create trouble, is where we've got with people taking drinking water from roofs, and they have to then, if they're inside an area that has a water supply, have to cease that and go to the water supply. If you're out at a beach or something like that, I know of quite a number of areas like that, small areas, that could have major problems with that. They've been using just a rainwater supply for years, and we will have to then do that. Who's going to enforce this? How do we do that? All of this is typical of this siloed government we have, where these issues are just brought up, and it's not going to be able to be enforced properly. So as I said, Renee, I thought that was well picked out, and most of the issues I totally agree with what you've actually picked out. So do congratulate you on what you've done. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Susan.
Yeah, I have to. Thanks, Renee. Great. Yeah, a great bunch of submissions. Just a quick typo on page 169. The last. Where am I? The last word, New Zealand, not New Zealanders. But no, look, really good submission. I think you covered a lot of the points really well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Yep. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Oh, Graham. You're on mute, Graham. Graham?
Thanks, Jim. On rural agricultural water supplies, you're talking about some guidance and design, configuration and installation of a treatment system. And that'll never happen from like the regional council or whatever, because when they come onto my farm and they say, we want you to do this, this and this with your effluent system, they will never tell you exactly what they require, because if it doesn't work, then they can't be blamed for telling you that that was wrong. And so that will never happen. They're looking to let you decide what you want to do and to comply with it how you want in terms of the cost. But appreciate your report. And the other thing is, we're all hanging out. I've got 4 houses on my farm. We're all hanging out to know exactly how they're going to operate. We have 2 houses on rainwater and 2 houses on bore water. And we are in the dark. Even Federated Farmers are struggling to find out what is going to happen. But I did know that there's going to be around about 300 inspectors required to go and look at all the water supplies around the country, which is a huge cost, which is really not mentioned in here. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to
move acceptance.
Thanks, Liz. Moved Councillor Brown and seconded Bruce Thomas. Thanks, Renee, for the report. I think there's a whole lot of, before I put the motion, a whole lot of costs and complications coming with these reforms that we haven't even touched on as yet, and it's going to be a real challenge. But I definitely think that there will be enforcement. There's no doubt about that. The criticisms of Havelock North were lack of compliance with existing rules and regulations. So that's why Tamata Arawai has been set up. So the 300 inspectors is probably an underestimate of what's going to be required. But there's going to be in my opinion, significant increased costs for all water consumers, and that's one of the reasons that we've registered our disapproval, I suppose, in the proposed reforms. But we certainly can't complain about the standards being improved and enforced. I think that goes without saying. How it's delivered is the issue, really. From our perspective and from the Communities for Local Democracy, that's the crux of it. So and this is only one leg of the stool, if you like. We've still got wastewater and stormwater to deal with. So I think the submission's great. We put it in and continue to look for how we can support our community. And Graham, I think you're right. Normally you won't get given any advice from an agency on how you can comply, but these are just examples. If you put this set of treatments in place, that's a means of compliance. Whether you can get away with that or not, I don't know at the end of the day, but it's certainly an effort to indicate to how or the level of treatment that's going to be required on even private supplies, on farm supplies, if you like. But anyway, have a mover and seconder. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you all.
A huge amount of work in that report. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep. Item 11. A resolution to exclude the public. And a mover, Councillor St Pierre, and a seconder, Councillor Coles. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary,